Hey there riders, MotoJourno Chris here, and I just wanted to have a quick chat about the differences and comparison between Royal Enfield's Interceptor 650 and Kawasaki's W800 Cafe, the 2019 model, which I just recently tested. Even though these bikes don't really compete with each other at all, they're both kind of a retro styled bike, and they're both really cool machines in my opinion. Now obviously the Royal Enfield is significantly cheaper at about 10. The W800 Cafe is 14. What does stand out on that W800 Cafe is the finish quality over the whole bike itself is significantly up from this particular machine. I think this machine perhaps has a little bit of a styling edge in some aspects, because on the W800 Cafe, that front cowl, which is quite cool, being a bit mismatched to the overall color scheme of the bike, does come into it. But with that said, the overall quality of the Kawasaki is definitely a big step up. Not overall, like the engine on this is a very nice finish quality, but it's all the details on this which are obviously cheaper. And on the W800 Cafe, you're paying for, I would say, in my estimation, a lot more of the finer details being higher quality. Like the clocks on the Royal Enfield are nice, but on the W800 Cafe, they were a step up. And just a lot of the little details were nicer as well. Obviously, it's significantly more expensive. The engines are really different. The W800 Cafe is super relaxed, and this has a much livelier engine. It revs a lot quicker. It feels a much sportier bike overall. The suspension as well on this is much sportier. On the W800 Cafe, it was again a very relaxed overall machine. Not that I'm complaining about that. I really enjoyed riding that W800 Cafe, and I thought as an overall package it was a beautiful machine. I think the price to me on that would be a little bit of a problem, whereas on this at 10 grand, I think that is really good value. It's a bit of a shame that the W800 Cafe isn't 12 like the previous year model, just standard W800, because that really puts it in quite a competitive price range there. Other stuff, I have to say the brakes on both machines were in some ways comparable. The W800 might have had possibly a little bit more power, but I think this is a lighter machine, so it's pretty even in that regard. They've both got spoked rims which really stand out. They're a nice styling feature. They've both got nice chromed exhausts. I do have to say I thought that the exhaust note on that W800 was a little bit nicer than this one. This one has been opened up as well, so it's not quite a standard exhaust note. The Kawasaki also had some nice engine features as well, so it was a blacked out engine with some basically polished back edges, which really stands out, so you get that nice bit of contrast. And obviously you're paying extra money for that, so you know it is what it is. I found the rear on this a little bit sharp, so that was one thing. Over the really rough roads it got a little bit out of shape. It wasn't anything that affected the overall ride, I could just ride through it, but it's definitely a much sportier machine. The W800 Cafe, I loved that because it was just so smooth through everything. The only time the W800 Cafe really got out of shape for me was when I got a big kick out of the rear, but I did the same sections of roads on this today and it was exactly the same thing. So I mean, even though they're very different handling machines overall, I definitely do think that each in their own way are a really nice machine. This is a little bit on the relaxed side in some ways, being that retro styled naked bike, but it's still much livelier than that W800 Cafe. The W800 Cafe for me, even though it had much more aggressive ergonomics overall, and that was something that I liked, they weren't too aggressive, they were just kind of perfect for me for getting quite engaged and having a bit of fun. That really stood out for me from the ergonomics perspective. This is a bit more of an upright kind of naked bike with quite wide bars though, and so again quite different. With the W800 I really felt like I could cruise along at 80 kilometers an hour and the speed was just really quite engaging. With this, I was definitely pushing a little bit more and having a little bit more fun going faster than that. So obviously I think in a way that kind of points to this being again a sportier machine, something that you can have a bit more of a fang on, where on the W800 Cafe, to me it was very much about that kind of gentlemanly cruise and just having fun and stringing all those corners together. And in that respect, to me, that was an absolute winner. I think this is a winner too. I have to say, as a learner bike, unlike the W800 Cafe, this really stands out. If you like a retro bike and you're looking for one and you want to buy a new, well, these are pretty exceptional value, and I reckon they're going to be significantly better than a much older bike, because you don't have to worry about all the possible problems that's going to come with a much older bike. But I mean, for some people, that's just part of the appeal of buying something old. So overall, I think at the end of the day, this, even though it doesn't have the finish quality and is not quite as refined as the W800 Cafe, I think the price difference makes a huge difference. This is $4,000 cheaper than that W800 Cafe, and all of that can be easily forgiven for that reason. The W800 Cafe is a great machine. To me, it strikes me as a real kind of gentlemanly cruiser. Not as in a cruiser bike, but a bike that you would cruise on and have a lot of fun without having to do any extreme speeds. It's very characterful. I mean, they're both characterful, but I think in that aspect that the W800 Cafe definitely had a bit of a character edge for me, but that's probably just because I liked it so much. And I still like this bike, but you know, there's obviously always a kind of a subjective favorite, which doesn't really come down to it being necessarily better. It's just what you like as an individual and as a rider. So that's just me having a bit of a chat about the two models. I think they are very distinct, really, at the end of the day. It's quite fun to make the comparison though, because it is just one of those interesting kind of topics, and I've certainly had a lot of fun on both of the bikes. There's going to be a full review on this particular machine at bikereview.com.au and a much more in-depth video, so keep an eye out for that. Definitely go over, subscribe there as well. That's where I do a lot of my other work, and have a great day. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to sub to this channel as well, and let me know what you think about these particular machines.